Good evening. On September 16, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court delivered a landmark ruling striking down tariffs on steel, aluminum, and a wide range of Chinese goods. In a 6-3 decision, the justices ended a key Trump-era policy that had sparked global trade wars and disrupted supply chains. The ruling isn't just about economics, it's about who controls America's trade strategy, the president or Congress. For years, the White House used national security as a justification for these tariffs, but the court decided that reasoning was stretched too far. This decision shifts power back to Congress, ending the era of swift, unilateral trade actions by the executive branch. Tariffs may seem distant to most Americans, but they've affected prices on everything from washing machines to canned soup. The court's move will lower costs for some, but create uncertainty for industries that relied on tariff protection. The consequences will ripple through the economy, as businesses adjust and politicians debate the next steps. This is more than a legal story, it's about American workers, families, and the nation's place in the world. The Supreme Court has closed one chapter on trade policy and opened another, setting the stage for a new era of debate. The central question now: how will the U.S. engage with the global marketplace going forward? The impact will be felt from factory floors to Wall Street boardrooms. The future of American trade is up for grabs. To understand the court's decision, we need to revisit why these tariffs existed. In 2018, the Trump administration launched the America First agenda, imposing 25% tariffs on steel and 10% on aluminum to revive U.S. manufacturing. The justification? National security, using a 1962 law that let the president act if imports threatened defense. The administration argued that a strong domestic metals industry was vital for military readiness, but the policy quickly expanded, targeting China for alleged unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. Tariffs on hundreds of billions in Chinese goods followed, sparking a tit-for-tat trade war. U.S. farmers and exporters were hit by retaliatory tariffs, while American manufacturers faced higher costs. Some steel and aluminum jobs were saved, but companies using those metals and consumers paid more. The policy's effects were complex. Some industries gained, others lost, and prices rose for many everyday goods. The trade war closed off key markets for U.S. agriculture and strained global relationships. For years, Americans lived with these competing pressures: protection for some, higher costs for many. The Supreme Court's ruling now forces a reckoning with the legacy of this protectionist era. The debate over how to balance security and economic growth is far from over. The Supreme Court's decision centered on a crucial question: did the president overstep by using national security to justify sweeping tariffs? The justices ruled that the 1962 law was meant for targeted threats, not broad economic protectionism. The court reaffirmed that Congress, not the president, holds the power to regulate foreign commerce. This ruling curtails the executive branch's ability to bypass Congress on major trade policy. Any future trade wars will require explicit legislative approval, making the process slower but more transparent. The decision restores the constitutional balance of power in trade policy. Wall Street's reaction was swift and positive. U.S. stock markets soared as investors cheered the end of tariffs, seeing it as a win for the economy. Manufacturing, retail, and tech stocks jumped, anticipating lower costs and smoother supply chains. The market's fear gauge dropped to its lowest in over a year, signaling relief. Analysts predicted higher corporate earnings, thanks to falling input costs. For many businesses, tariffs had been a tax on operations. Now, those costs are gone. Companies can lower prices or boost profits, both good for business and stock prices. However, domestic steel and aluminum producers saw their stocks fall, facing renewed global competition. The market's split reaction highlighted the winners and losers in a post-tariff world. The Supreme Court's decision was a clear verdict: freer trade benefits most, but not all. The economic landscape is shifting fast. The Supreme Court's decision sent shockwaves worldwide. U.S. allies like the EU, Canada, and Japan welcomed the ruling, eager to lift retaliatory tariffs and reset trade relations. American industries hurt by counter-tariffs, like agriculture and manufacturing, breathed a sigh of relief. Allied leaders saw a chance to move past years of disputes and work together on global economic challenges. China, the main target of U.S. tariffs, responded cautiously, calling the decision a positive step but waiting for concrete action. Years of trade conflict have left deep mistrust, and Beijing is watching for real policy changes. The ruling is seen as a blow to economic nationalism and a move toward a more predictable, rules-based global order. International organizations like the WTO may regain influence as trade tensions ease. The world expects a period of de-escalation, but uncertainty remains. The US is signaling a return to open, stable trade, but the path forward is still being written. The global economy is watching America's next move. The end of tariffs creates clear winners and losers at home. Businesses relying on imports, automakers, retailers, small manufacturers, will see costs drop and competitiveness rise. Consumers may benefit from lower prices on everyday goods, boosting household budgets. Small businesses, often hit hardest by tariffs, could finally catch a break. But domestic steel and aluminum producers now face tough foreign competition, risking job losses and plant closures. Union leaders warn of painful adjustments for workers in protected industries. Companies that reshored production during the trade war now face tough choices: stay in the US or move operations abroad again. The ruling untangles one set of problems but creates new strategic dilemmas for American businesses. The economic ripple effect will be felt in every corner of the country. The challenge balancing lower costs for many with the survival of key domestic industries. The debate over America's economic future is just beginning. The Supreme Court's decision shifts trade policy power back to Congress. No longer can the president unilaterally impose sweeping tariffs. Major trade actions now require legislative approval. This means trade policy will be slower, more political, and subject to public debate. Every tariff proposal will face scrutiny, amendments, and votes from hundreds of lawmakers. The process is designed for consensus, but could also lead to gridlock and partisan battles. With tariffs gone, imports are expected to rise, possibly widening the U.S. trade deficit. The nation must now confront tough questions. Should we prioritize low prices and global efficiency, or protect key industries at home? The Supreme Court didn't pick a side, it just handed the choice to Congress and the American people. The future of U.S. trade will be shaped by open debate, not executive orders. The power and responsibility now rests with elected representatives. The Supreme Court's ruling marks a turning point for America. It ends an era of unilateral trade wars and opens a new chapter of debate and compromise. Lower prices may be coming for families, but some industries face tough new realities. America's global role is shifting, with allies hopeful for renewed cooperation, and rivals watching closely. The debate over how to engage with China and other competitors will now play out in Congress. The nation faces a fundamental choice: global efficiency versus domestic security, lower costs versus protected jobs. The court didn't decide which path is best, it left that to the people and their representatives. The road ahead will be uncertain, but it's also a chance to forge a new consensus on trade. The decisions made now will shape the economy for a generation. America's next move will define its place in the world.